Madam Moma was known all across Mocha village, known not for beauty, not for kindness, not for generosity, but for something far different. Her name traveled in whispers, her footsteps made women hide their baskets, and her voice made children stop whatever they were doing. She was tall, dark, and strong, with shoulders wide like a wrestler, and eyes that watched people like a hawk searching for prey. If you asked 10 villagers to describe her, all 10 would say the same thing: Madam Moma loved money more than she loved herself. She lived in a tiny mud house at the far end of Mocha village, close to the thick bushes that separated Mocha from the neighboring community, Okporo. People believed she chose that spot for a reason, so that nobody would see what she did in the night. She had no husband. She once had one, but he left her many years ago and never returned. Some people said he ran away because of her troublesome behavior. Others said the man became tired of waking up every day to quarrels, insults, and fights. Whatever the reason, he vanished like smoke. After he left, Madam Moma hardened her heart. She became rough. She became greedy. She became the type of person who wanted everything she saw, even things that did not belong to her. Every morning, she tied a faded wrapper across her chest, carried a wide market basket on her head, and walked to Mocha market. She always came with plenty of yam: big yam, long yam, white yam, yellow yam, yam that looked too fresh to belong to somebody like her who never farmed a day in her life. Traders often wondered where she got the yam from, because nobody ever saw her clear land, plant yam seedlings, or weed any farm. But whenever anyone asked her, Madam Moma would snap her fingers and say, "Is it your yam? Face your business. Not everything you see, you must talk about." People slowly learned to mind their own business. But still, the yam she sold was always too much. Too fresh. Too clean. Too plenty. What nobody knew was that Madam Moma had a dangerous habit: she stole yam from other people's farms. It started small. The first time she stole yam, it was from old Mama Aki's backyard garden. She had only taken 2 tubers. She told herself that nobody would notice. And truly, nobody did. The silence encouraged her. She grew bold. Later, she went deeper into the village farms. She started cutting yam from Enisha's farm, from Agbo's farm, from Chima's farm, from Mama Nene's small yam ridge. She stole without pity. She stole without fear. She stole without shame. Her trick was simple. She moved at night. When the moon was bright, she would tie a black cloth around her head, carry her cutlass, hold a sack, and slip silently into people's farms. She knew which ridge belonged to who. She knew which farmer planted early. She knew which yam was newly harvested and which was mature. She had studied the farms like a thief studies a house before breaking in. Some nights, she returned with only a few tubers. Other nights, she came back with an entire sack full of yam. She always sold them early the next day before the owners visited their farms. To avoid suspicion, she mixed the stolen yam with a few poor quality ones she bought cheaply from distant farmers. That way, the yam in her pile looked natural. Weeks passed, months passed, years passed, and nobody caught her. The more she succeeded, the bolder she became. She grew rich. Not rich like those living in big cities, but rich for village life. She bought new wrappers, golden earrings, expensive beads, multiple baskets, and even a small radio that she played loudly every afternoon. People wondered how she made so much profit from selling yam alone. But Madam Moma had no fear. She believed no one in Mocha village was smart enough to catch her. She believed the gods had blessed her. She believed nothing could ever go wrong. But greed is like fire. Once it starts burning, it continues until something destroys it. One season, Mocha village suffered a strange problem. Farmers began to complain that their yam ridges were reducing. One farmer would harvest only half of what he planted. Another would dig up his ridge and find empty holes where tubers used to be. A young boy ran home one afternoon shouting, "Papa, Papa, Somebody has stolen our yam again." The entire village became restless. At first, the elders thought it was wild animals. But when hunters checked the farms, they found no footprints of animals, only footprints of human legs. The elders called a meeting at the village square. All the farmers gathered. Mama Nene cried as she narrated how she lost almost all her yam. Chima said his biggest tubers were gone. Enish complained bitterly. Even young boys whose parents allowed them to plant small ridges said their yam had disappeared. One thing was clear: a yam thief was in the village. But who? People began to suspect one another. Suspicion can spread like wind. Some suspected strangers. Some suspected youths. Some even suspected travelers. But only one person remained calm during the meeting: Madam Moma. She sat at the back, chewing roasted groundnut, pretending to be innocent. In fact, she was the only one who was not angry. After the meeting, she even said loudly, "Whoever is stealing yam in this village will suffer. The gods will punish the person." People nodded. They believed her words. Nobody thought she was the one behind their suffering. But fate has a way of catching a thief, even if the thief is wise. One fateful night, Madam Moma prepared again to go to the farm. The moon was bright like a lamp. She tied her black cloth, carried her sack, and walked quietly into the farms. She reached Agbo's farm and smiled when she saw how big his yam ridges were. "This one go sell well for market tomorrow," she murmured. She dug the first ridge. The yam was huge. She placed it in her sack. She dug the second ridge. Another big tuber. She kept digging, sweating but excited. She did not know that Agbo had become suspicious and decided to set a trap. He had hidden quietly inside the bushes, waiting for the thief. As Madam Moma lifted her cutlass to cut the third yam, Agbo jumped out of the bush like a lion. "Thief!" he shouted. Madam Moma froze. The cutlass dropped from her hand. Her heart began to beat like a talking drum. She looked left, right, front, back. There was no escape. Agbo rushed forward and grabbed her wrapper. "You are the one stealing my yam. You, a whole woman." Before she could struggle, Agbo blew his whistle, the signal he had arranged earlier. Instantly, 3 other men hiding in nearby farms ran out with lanterns. The light shone brightly on Madam Moma's face. The men gasped, "Madam Moma, so now you all this time?" Her lies collapsed like a rotten hut. The men inspected her sack. It was full of Agbo's yam. They looked at the ridges she had dug up. They saw her cutlass. They saw the holes she created. They saw everything. Madam Moma tried to beg. "Please, my brothers, I was hungry. I just wanted small." But nobody believed her lies anymore. Agbo shouted angrily, "Hungry? Are you hungry when you sell yam every day in the market? Are you hungry when you wear new wrapper every week?" They tied her hands with a rope and marched her straight to the village square. The noise woke the entire village. People came out with lanterns. Children ran from house to house. Women wrapped shawls around their shoulders. Men whispered loudly. When they saw Madam Moma tied like a criminal, the village erupted in shock. "Jesus! It is Moma. She is the yam thief. Ah, wonders shall never end. I knew that woman's yam too plenty." The elders arrived, angry and embarrassed that someone had been stealing from the village for so long. They questioned her, but Madam Moma had no defense. The evidence was too much. In Mocha village, stealing farm produce is a grave sin. It is not just stealing food, it is stealing someone's sweat, someone's hope, someone's survival. The elders concluded that her crime deserved a strong punishment. The oldest elder stood up and pronounced the judgment. "Madam Moma, you have caused too many tears in this village. You have brought hunger upon us, sold what you did not plant, and lied to your fellow villagers. From today onward, you are banished from Mocha village. You will leave before the next sun rises. If you return, may the gods judge you." The entire village shouted in agreement. Madam Moma cried, but her tears were too late. Before morning, she packed her few belongings, a broken pot, 2 wrappers, a small mat, and her basket. The village youths escorted her to the border of Mocha village. She walked alone into the bush path leading to nowhere. The villagers watched silently as she disappeared. Nobody begged her. Nobody pitied her. Nobody shed a tear. For the first time in many years, the villagers slept peacefully, knowing their yam was safe. And that was how Madam Moma, the woman who stole yam at night, was banished from Mocha village forever.